Now, let us move on to my final comment of the evening, the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party, I think, is very poorly portrayed here. Now, I admit there has been an increasing tension between that party, or elements of that party, and its support with the State of Israel. We have a congresswoman who has made numerous out and out anti Semitic remarks. Oh, she apologizes, and then a week later she goes and does it again. And yet she is appointed to a plum position on the Foreign Relations Committee. That is sad. And many of the Democratic candidates for president did not want to go to AIPAC this year. That is sad. But this article makes things look even worse. This, according to this article, would imply that the only reason that a Democrat supports Israel is because of donations by Israel supporters, many of whom are Jewish, but I guess a few of them are not. They're not even concerned about the votes because they feel they'll get Jewish votes anyway, but they're concerned about donations. So it implies that if the Democratic Party supports Israel, it's not because Israel is a democracy, the only democracy in the Middle East. It's not because Israel has been a staunch ally and reliable ally of the United States. No. Here, this article claims it actually is all about the Benjamins for the Democratic Party. If I were a Democrat, I would be so offended by this article. And I hope that the Democrats who still believe in the party of Harry Truman, who, against the advice of his Secretary of State, recognized the State of Israel, the party of Kennedy, the party of Bill Clinton, the party of Johnson, will dispute this and say, no, we want to support an ally. We support Israel for the same reason we support South Korea against North Korea. We support Israel for the same reason we support Japan, or England, or France, or Germany, because they are democracies. They are our ally. Now, I said this was going to be the end, but no. I've got to do a little more. I have to talk about the BDS boycott and the harm that it is doing the Palestinians. Now, wait a minute, you're saying, but isn't this supposed to help the Palestinians? Well, let's see how it's helping the Palestinians. Now, we all want peace in the Middle East. And assuming that we can actually get a Palestinian state that has freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of press, democratic elections with regularity and at least two opposing parties, that recognizes Israel as a Jewish state, if someone were to offer Israel that type of Palestinian state, I think everybody in the Israeli government would jump at it. Unfortunately, that's not on the table. But what else do we need to have a successful Palestinian state? We need trade. Who are our two of our greatest allies, Germany and Japan? Now, they're both democracies, so we support them on that level just as we support Israel. But let's remember, once upon a time, Germany and Japan were our deadliest enemies. World War II, Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan were our greatest enemies. And we fought them with everything we had. It was the last major war that we had been in. We were scared, and had they been successful, we'd be living in a very dark world. And yet, they are two of our allies. And not coincidentally, they are also two of our biggest trading partners. Who hasn't heard of Volkswagen, BMW, Sony, Panasonic, and so many other companies that we do trade with that are, we almost consider them as American as apple pie. They are our allies, but they are also our greatest trading partners. Why can't we have that with the Palestinians? Why can't Israel have that with the Palestinians? Why? Because of BDS. And I'll give you an example. Some of you may have heard of a company called SodaStream. They make carbonation machines. Scarlett Johansson was promoting them a few years ago. Now, they decided to open a factory in the West Bank. They employed Jews. They employed Palestinians, Arabs. Well, Palestinians really are Arabs. Arabs paid them the same, treated them the same. That factory is no longer there. Why? Because BDS did not like the idea of a company owned by Jewish people on the West Bank. Company was fine, but it was owned by Jews. As a result, SodaStream closed their operations on the West Bank and left these Arabs without jobs. Or they could have traveled to the new location, but that would have been a hardship. And some of them do, I guess, but a lot of them had to lose good-paying jobs because BDS was trying to help them. If they help the Arabs anymore, they're going to starve to death, BDS. If BDS helps the Arabs anymore, they're all going to starve. And I keep saying one final thing, but this really will be the final thing. Article asks about why we are giving money to Israel. Well, I've already answered that. Israel is our ally. Israel does need to defend itself. But they ask, well, why are we not giving more money to Palestinians? Well, we are trying to get them jobs, but you just saw what happened when we tried to do that. But the reason that President Trump has withheld funding, and in some cases Israel has withheld funding, is because they know what is going on with the funding. Money going into Gaza is not used to build homes or businesses or schools. It's used to build terror tunnels. It's used to build rockets to be fired against Israel. Israel does not blockade Gaza for the sake of blockading Gaza. Israel blockades Gaza because they know that if they don't, there will be more rockets, more bombs, more terror tunnels. If Israel wanted to hurt Gaza, they wouldn't have given Gaza to the Palestinians. Israel gave Gaza to the Palestinians with the hope that they would start building what might eventually become part of a Palestinian state. That has not happened, and it is the people of Gaza who are suffering because they are being used as human shields, because their schools teach them that the best way to get to heaven is to kill Jews. Their schools don't even mention a state of Israel exists. How do you have peace if you can't even acknowledge the people that you want peace with? Palestinian Authority is using the money that we give them to pay terrorists. They give them a lifelong pension. They name streets after terrorists. Is this a way for peace? Is this how we get equality? I don't think so. Bottom line is, let's get a few takeaways on this. There is no Palestinian state because the Arab community and the Palestinians refuses to accept Israel as a Jewish state and refuses to make peace. They've had plenty of chances, the most recent one under President Obama, or under President Bill Clinton, or under President George Bush. All gave them chances. They refused. Israel offered them 98% of the land they wanted. They refused. And that is why we have no Palestinian state today. BDS, the one thing that this article gets right is that BDS is not interested in getting rid of settlements. They are interested, their goal is to get rid of the Jewish state. Also, finally, Israel is a democracy. It is not an apartheid state. Nathan Thrall, admits that because he says there are Arabs in the Knesset, in the Israeli parliament. All in all, this is a disgraceful article. BDS should change its name to BS, and the New York Times should be ashamed of itself for publishing this disgraceful article. I've been joking all along about how Walter Burns edited this article. Walter Burns is a fictional editor who had very few scruples and is a character in a play called Front Page. But you know what? I think even Walter Burns wouldn't have published this. My name is Charles Gross, and I thank you very much for your time.